particularly when you've got someone doing an introduction like Connie on stage, I'm reminded when the word economist first came into the vernacular of my family. I graduated college, I was back in New York, and went back to school at University of Pennsylvania, at Wharton School, to become an economist. And back in New York, in Brooklyn, my nephew turns to my mother and said, "Aunt Miriam, why is Paul back in Philadelphia? I thought he graduated last summer. Did he do something bad and they made him come back?" And my mother, having learned a new word, said, "No, our son Paul's going to be an economist." And my 6-year-old cousin should have said, "Wow," but 6-year-olds don't know enough to say wow, so they go, "What's an economist?" And my mother thought about my background in New York City in science and math in high school and said, "I think an economist is someone who is very, very, very good with numbers, but does not have enough personality to become an accountant." So as we're going to get serious here, and I appreciate the laughs, that may be the only joke I get here, but the only one I'm really trying for. And it's tough, as I said, following Connie. But we're going to get serious now about economics. I don't like economics, I love economics. I've reached a level in economics where I can sit with literally heads of state of governments to CEOs to an individual like any one of you, and somehow at age 58 it's just crystal clear now. I can see what's going on. I see this magnificent order. When we say prayers at our house, my children all hold hands and we thank God not only for the food, but for the hundreds of people, and my son Michael goes, "Ooh, they all touched it," but the hundreds of people who went out and picked the strawberries and packets of strawberries and put them till it finally got to us. And you can feel this magnificent order of our economic system, that everyone gets up to take care of their family and has a dream and aspiration for what they want to accomplish. And it all comes down to us getting a beautiful pint of strawberries for 99 cents that might, cost us $50,000 if we had to get in a plane and go find it somewhere. And I see this wonderful order of economics. But I remember when I first discovered I want to study economics. I grew up in an immigrant family in Brooklyn, New York, and I would notice that my father and his brothers, and also my mother's family, but particularly my father and his brothers, would get together every weekend. And they would argue about what's the best way to get ahead. What's the best way to ask for a raise? What's the best way to get a new job? What if so-and-so's coming over from Europe, doesn't have any job? How are we going to help them? Then it got really interesting as they got off on how do you buy a car? How do you finance a car? How do you register a car? And then it went all the way to the real dream. How are you going to buy a house? How are you going to finance it? And as I watched them argue every position, it was clear to me that no one knew anything they were talking about. But they loved arguing the positions. And I was supposed to go into science or biology, but very quickly I figured out if I want to bring home from the value of my scholarships, if I want to bring it home to my family, what they really need the most, I'm going to study economics, because whether they know it or not, that's the knowledge I want to bring home to my family. And so we're going to talk here a little bit about economics and some of the things I've learned, and very particularly where they focus on you and your business. But first I'm going to spend time, because as we saw in my introduction, you can't go anywhere as an economist today. It's all of a sudden a very hot topic. And whether people think they know it or don't know it, it's discussed a lot. So let's first, as business people, talk about what's really happening in our economy right now. And to first focus on what I consider the most important point, if there's any one thing I want you to remember from the whole weekend on economics, or the whole year, it's this. Take a journey with me, as I do with my students, to Pilzar's Island, where we isolate a single economic issue so all of us can understand it and debate it and understand it. And in this case, we have an island where 10 fishermen live on the island. And it's a very traditional island. Nothing's changed for 5,000 years. The fishermen go out. They each have a wife and a family and a little hut they live in. And they barely stay alive each day for 5,000 years, just barely catching enough fish to feed themselves with their line. And that's life, and that's the whole economy. They catch the fish, eat the fish that night, next day get up and go fish. Along one day comes a missionary. Missionary arrives from San Diego. He says, "Hey guys, I got a new thing for you." "What do you got?" It's a net. "What do you do with it?" One guy throws the net, and one guy pilots the boat. 2. Now 2 fishermen using the net and the boat can catch all the fish that 10 fishermen did with the lines. Think of that. Just using that net makes you 500% more efficient. 2 fishermen catch all the fish that 10 did. The island's got a problem if that occurs. What's the problem? Unemployment. What kind of unemployment? 80%. because we've taken productivity 500%. So the island gets together and says, let's have a meeting. And it's a very easy island to govern. It's not like, some big democracy or parliamentary system. And they sit around the 10 people of the island, and what are they going to do now that 2 people can do all the work of 10? And they've got 80% unemployment. And one fisherman says, I know, go ahead. Why don't we just make it a law that it's a capital offense for anyone who uses the net? End of story. And that's what happened in England in 1820 with a group called the Luddites, and throughout history when people got very, very productive using tools. Another person says, no, that's ridiculous. Let's put it this way. Let's put in 80% taxation for people who use the net. And see how the math works? We take 80% of their fish and give it to the other 8 of the 10 who don't fish. That's the United States of America. That's what we did here, seriously. In 1930, when technology started lifting us out of this Great Depression, we put an income tax that worked up to 91% if you earned over $135,000 a year by 1959. And today with state and federal, it's about 15%. Till, that was the United States. What was another answer? I know, let's put in 100% taxation. That's what Russia did. India did. Half the world when I was born. My parents are from Russia. My wife's family is from Vietnam. Half the world lived under a system that they took 100% of your income when you used the nets, until what happened? People said, I'm not going to learn how to use that net anymore. And their whole economies collapsed. And of course, what should they have done? Well, it's easy to look at the island and see what they should have done. What they should have done was said, hey, you don't really like to fish. Nah, but what else do you do here? Well, now that we got this net, why don't you start taking care of the kids? Oh, I love kids. And you'll teach them, and we'll have a new job. We'll call it a teacher. And we'll even call your hut during the day a school. Never existed before. And but how will I eat? We'll trade you fish, and you take care of our kids. Deal. Hey, why don't you become a doctor? What's a doctor? You'll take care of the sick. Well, who'll teach my kids? He'll teach your kids. Well, how will I get fed? I'll get your fish. Why don't you become a roofer? Can you see how quickly we could take the 8 of those people, and each one lifts GDP, gross domestic product, or really what's important, gross domestic happiness, up by another 10%? All this started with the net. This, in effect, is exactly what's happening in the United States today and what our presidential election in 2012 is all about. More than anything else, its nets have shown up overnight. It used to be in 1930, we had 30 million farmers barely feeding 100 million people. By 1980, we only had 3 million farmers left. But they fed 300 million people and exported the food for 600 million more. It's a 90 times increase in productivity. And this has been going on forever, except the farmers had 50 years from 1930 to 1980 to get out of farming. And what we see today, unfortunately, is that the nets just show up every day. And you could have gone in the business of making vinyl records, and then you switched to digital CDs, audio CDs, and then you got to MP3s. Then it disappeared into the ether, and today it's on Pandora, on radio, through internet. And it keeps changing, and it changes so fast that people who were brought up with, what do you want to be when you grow up, little boy, in school? As if you're going to learn something in school that could possibly be useful in your adult life. No, I mean that seriously. What you go to the top graduate schools is to learn how other people invented these things so you can invent them and innovate. You're not supposed to learn things you go do, because teachers, if they were any good, they'd be doing it. Seriously. The teachers who are great are the teachers who motivate you to increase your speed of learning so you can go do something else with it. And so what happens is we move so fast in our economy today that those with the nets are rising at an unprecedented pace. And what we really see is that unemployment, what we call structural unemployment, where the structure of the economy changes due to technology like nets, is the first and only sign of economic growth. I'm going to say it because it sounds so crazy. Unemployment is the first and only sign of true economic growth, because it occurs when someone shows up with a net. And if we would look at it as God sees things in a timeless nature, we wouldn't see the guy with the fishing line out of work. We'd see a freed up individual. Wow, what could we do with that person? What value could they add to the world? What kind of product could they distribute? And you'd be thanking God for this great new technology that freed up 8 out of 10 people to go do something new and exciting. Because unemployment is the first and only sign of economic growth. But until now, employment was a lifetime function. You learned a job and function in school, and you expected to do it to the rest of your life. Now it changes so fast, and that more than anything else is what we're really debating in a beautiful way. I don't mean to get political here, but it's exciting to see the debate, but it's always a debate, thank God for America, to the degree. Should we have taxation at 38% on the rich, or should we go to 44%? As if 7% matters so much. But we all are Americans, and we all understand where we're trying to get to. And we have this wonderful, healthy debate. And as someone who served in 2 White House administrations, I can't tell you, the real fun for me, in and out, is when you're coming into one of those jobs in the White House or leaving, and you sit with the person who had your job before, and even though you had this bitter battle with your bosses fighting it all out in the media, you peacefully transfer power to the next group and give them a try with almost a wistful attitude of, maybe you will do it better. The people in the United States thought differently when they didn't re-elect my guy. And it's such an exciting time to see it debated. So unemployment is the first sign of economic growth. But let's tune right now into what's happening in the U.S. economy, because you know the numbers, but you've been manipulated by the media into thinking otherwise. There is nothing wrong with the U.S. economy, and by that I mean the total economic output. Our gross domestic product of $15 trillion works out to about $50,000 a person. That's not sales, that's profit. That's value add. That's when a baker buys labor and buys flour and buys an oven, makes bread, sells the bread, the difference of their person's value add. $50,000 a person. There isn't, at some point you complain the U.S. is only 50,000 GDP, it hasn't been growing as fast. Compared to what? We don't compare ourselves to some foreign planet, we compare ourselves to other nations. Nobody comes close. There isn't a gross domestic product approaching 50 grand anywhere except in the EU, and they're seriously actually declining. Ours is growing slower. And the United States GDP is amazingly strong. So what's going on out there? What's going on out there is we have 40 million people, when we really admit it, who want a job. They want to participate in this great economy, and they're not doing it. And you know why they're not doing it? Because one of you are using a net. One of you have taken technology and grown and keep the GDP at a continually rising level. But 40 million people are out, and they're not out, as people tell them, because of their color or their skin or their religion or their race or all this other stuff. They're out because they could have been lucky. They banked the whole business on digital CDs that switched to MP3s. Or most likely they're out because no one's telling them the truth that they need to retool. They need to be here right now learning about new businesses and new things they can do that will add value to people's lives that people need done. And so what we see is that the U.S. economy is actually in amazing shape. And I can't leave the U.S. economy without taking one more minute on the U.S. debt. Because separately from the U.S. economy, GDP doesn't lie. Our gross domestic product goes up every quarter. If more and more people are on the news every day out of work, where's their salary? It's gone to somebody else who's just quietly sitting there or scared to spend money because they don't know what's happening, but is making their share of the GDP. But more significantly than just GDP, we talk about is U.S. debt. The whole U.S. debt, and I mean this, it's very small. It's $15 trillion. That's compared to $15 trillion of sales. If you knew somebody who wants to buy a house, and they want to buy a house and take on a $100,000 mortgage, and they earn $100,000 a year cash flow, would you worry? You would argue that a person earning $100,000 cash flow could take on a $2 million mortgage or $3 million, and that's at 3% interest rates. The United States borrows at 0% interest rates. Our treasuries are 0.05% per year. And every year when we roll old treasuries that are 3, 4, 5, 8%, we roll them at 0. Why are they at 0? Because everyone who has money outside the U.S., you know what they fantasize doing with their money? Getting it into the U.S., buying an apartment in the U.S., buying a condo, having some base here in case things go bad in their country, or show me a rich family anywhere in the world, their absolute fantasy is their kids go to college in the United States, and they're willing to put their money here. So we have 0% interest rates, and I think that's for the foreseeable, indefinite future. You know, one of the things we don't like to talk about in business that our boys in the overseas do really, really, really well is defend America. Nobody attacks America. You don't have a chance when that happens. And the reason that is our currency, our interest rates are so low. Because when you got money, you want to put it safely in the bank with the biggest vault. And when things get bad in the world, the last world economy that's ever going to collapse, the last political system that's ever going to turn communist, the last country that's ever going to lose a war and cave in and surrender to someone is the United States. And that's just where we sit today, which is why our currency is so strong and why our economy is so amazingly strong. And I wish we would stop talking about what's wrong with it just to make news headlines and really say, with compassion and understanding, we got 40 million people out here who want to participate in this. How do we get them there instead of elect him, unelect him, change some policy, or get people all scared about the U.S. debt, which is a totally insignificant number because it isn't the debt on your house that matters, it's the monthly payment. And when the monthly payment in the mortgage is 1%, 2%, 3% today, down from 12%, that's a lot different than when I grew up with mortgage rates in the double-digit rates. So, I've given you enough of what I wanted to say about the economy, and there's a lot more in my books and work about how strong the U.S. economy is as the economy, but what we're seeing is a very serious bifurcation within our economy of those have and have-nots. But it's not the traditional bifurcation based on race, religion, country of origin. It's a bifurcation based on you were standing at the wrong place making the wrong product, or you didn't keep up your skills, or no one's telling you the real truth that you need to improve your skills. Within economics, my favorite area of economics, now I'm going to get more on the personal level, not the macroeconomic level, has been millionaires. And I don't know why, as a little kid, my favorite TV show was black and white, was a TV show, I don't know if anyone's old enough like me to remember, but it was a show called The Millionaire. Anyone ever remember that show? And on The Millionaire, the camera, I would tune in every week because my father would say, let's go watch The Millionaire. And I go, oh, we're going to see The Millionaire? But they shot the camera behind his back, if you remember. He was seeing how people reacted to his gifts. So every week I tuned in the show and I never saw The Millionaire. I had a favorite cartoon strip. My favorite cartoon strip was Little Orphan Annie, and there was this guy, Daddy Warbucks, with a shaved head. I shaved my head to look like a millionaire. But Daddy Warbucks, I still couldn't be. I never saw a millionaire. And then I figured out where millionaires hang out. Because one day I said to my father, let's go out to eat tonight. Mom's not working late. Let's go to dinner. And he said, what, we're going to go to a restaurant? Are you crazy? We went to a restaurant last week. Yes, we went to a restaurant last week. What do you think we are, millionaires? So I knew millionaires go to restaurants. But I still couldn't find any millionaires. And that led me to a life obsession. And then when I got out of grad school, I started studying millionaires because Forbes 400 magazine, about 30 years ago, came out with this list of the 400 richest people in America. And for economists, this is a dream because they've created a list and defined the people. So you don't have what we call adverse selection, in that someone else has chosen the list of people that I want to study. And I would study these people and really get into their backgrounds, and not the ones who were the Horatio Alger stories who wanted to write the book and tell you how they did it. I would dig through all the dirt and all the stories to figure out what made this person. And then, of course, I became a writer and started writing books, and it all started going, what made this person become a millionaire? I discovered some fascinating things. That when I was born, millionaires came from the same family. Meaning if I had a student at NYU and I would talk with him and he says, oh, so you have a sister? Yeah, she's at Columbia, or she's at Yale. And there was a group of people who all went to very similar colleges. By the time I was teaching already 10, 15 years, that had stopped completely. I would say, well, what do you do? Oh, my brother dropped out of school. Oh, he's not doing this, he's not doing this. And I would find very successful people didn't have. In fact, what I found when I tuned into mega successful people, the Forbes 400, and I'm not saying business is the only way to succeed, but it's an easy group to go. It would be harder for me to pick the 400 best doctors or the 400 best teachers. It's real easy to pick the 400 best billionaires. They got the most money. So you study the 400 most achieving, and you find something fascinating. Almost all of them have something in common with our last 7 U.S. presidents. A degree from Yale, or equivalent, and a brother in jail. Remember Billy Carter, Neil Bush, Roger Clinton, Donald Nixon? I worked with some of these people. I always had to clean up some messes for some of these people. And I quickly became aware, how can the man from the, literally I had to clean up messes. And I go, how can this person who's the President of the United States have a brother this incompetent? And the same college, same schools, they dropped out, whereas the brother went on to graduate and become president. And then you really see it among very, very wealthy entrepreneurs. So I knew something was going on, and that's when I figured it out. As a teacher, and I've been a teacher, taught freshmen for 21 years. I've taught gifted college students, and I lectured at freshman student bodies. I hate the graduating classes. I always go, it's too late. So when the universities call me, I go, this is the cost of the commencement speech, here's the cost of the freshman orientation speech. And when you start to study people who have been just major successful, you start noticing something. Prior to the 19th century or 20th century, we thought all of success was about your genes. And out of that, genes of the firstborn male was the most important, so we gave them all the property, and guess what? They became the most successful, which led for 2,000 years, people believed that firstborn males were special. Then we switched in the 20th century. It's not your genes, it's your environment. To Officer Krupke, if you remember West Side Story, it's his upbringing, it's his background. It's not his fault. And if you're successful, it's not necessarily your responsibility, it's something happened. And the 20th century was about, it's not nature, it's nurture. And the debate has always been, as a teacher and as a parent, is it nature or nurture? And it's a big thing for me now. I got 4 kids, age 7, 8, and 9, 3 boys and 1 girl, 11. And when they do bad things, I go, who's going to Yale and who's going to jail? I need to find this out. I don't want to think that I'm so egotistical that my kids are going to be different than the President of the United States. But really significant is it nature or nurture? And I now can conclusively feel that it's not nature. Genes are very important to success in life. They're about 10% of the equation. Environment and your parents and family background are very important. They're 10%, that's 20. But the 80%, is it nature or nurture? It's neither. And what's neither? Neither is about what we're really about here today. It's when you make a choice. It's when somebody says, this is my life, this is what I do, this is my habit, I am going to make a choice and act on that choice. Every one of you made that choice by coming here today. You sacrifice something in you. And when you talk to very successful people, including presidents of the United States, they will tell you that the most exciting moments was when they made that choice. Something happened that lit them up. In my case, it was very bad things socially and personal, and I got all Fs, 3 Fs. I got 3 Fs, a C, and a D my freshman year of college, having worked hard to get into a top school. And I turned and I looked at my C, which was in economics, and I knew the only thing left for me was to be a world's famous economist. What else could I do? I had to become an economist. It was my best subject. True story. But really as significant is people make a choice of what they're going to do, and that choice and that energy just so overrides any amount of genes, background, the environment. And so let's move quickly now through this, because you are here because you've made the choice. And you've made a specific choice to become a millionaire. And I should put those in numbers. Right now, as we speak, the fastest growing minority in the United States are families worth $1 million or more. We are adding to the United States rolls 1 million families per year since 2010. 1 million families a year across the rolls into not earning, but actually having cash net worth $1 million. And I believe we're doing that right through at least 2020. There's over 8 years left of my 10-year item. And there's currently over 12 million families in the United States. That's 30 million people living in a household where their net worth, where they take their credit card debts and subtract it from what they own, is $1 million or more. You have chosen within becoming a millionaire entrepreneurship, and I can't stress enough what entrepreneurship really is. Entrepreneurship is what the United States was really founded about. They didn't want freedom, they wanted to be left alone. They wanted to bake their farms, they wanted to make a product, they wanted to deliver the product, they wanted their patents. Patent and copyrights are in the original US Constitution, that if you invented something, the state, the king, only now not the king, but the United States will defend your rights. And they wanted to be left alone to build their business. But what is really building a business? Entrepreneurship is serving God by serving other people. I don't like to cross too much into religion, but to me it's just so clear among all religions that what God really wants out of us is not necessarily to serve God, which is very important only if it makes us a better person to serve other people. He's God. God doesn't need us serving him. Humans need us serving, especially children, especially people underprivileged, especially people who need opportunity. And when you become an entrepreneur, you tune right into saying, what I want to do most is serve other people. An entrepreneur is a modern revolutionary. A modern revolutionary in old times just said, I'll tear down this wall, I'll tear down this government, storm the Bastille. But that's not what entrepreneurship is. It's what you build after you tear it down. Build a country like the United States of America. And entrepreneurship is serving someone. When you get a bad product, when you're unhappy, when your skincare doesn't work, when someone sells you something that doesn't work and you try it out, you can get mad or you can get very rich because you can go into business selling the product that does work or bringing to the same customer the bad opportunity. And I viewed every kind of opportunity I've had as a customer when things didn't work out as a great opportunity to make a lot of money because there's probably a lot of other people who are unhappy customers. Entrepreneurship is a modern revolutionary who fixes things. An entrepreneur is someone who says, this is not working, this is not right, this product isn't serving its customer, I am going to find a way to serve this customer. And that makes me an entrepreneur. And you have chosen within entrepreneurship something I can't describe enough I'm so happy with, because separately within the economy I study specific industries. And I particularly spend time on the education and the health and wellness industry. And right in the middle of the health and wellness industry comes your product and your company, because you've focused on a product that has an unlimited propensity to consume new goods. The reason it has an unlimited propensity is something I call quantity demand and quality demand. When you first go out and buy a product, the first thing you want is the cheapest product you can find like it to try it new. But then you quickly shift to a higher quality, and you do that shift multiple times. The best example would be, I go out one day and I get out of college and I buy a new suit. Never had a suit before. So I put on my new suit and I go to work. Wow, I feel great. I walk in on Monday. And what happens? On Tuesday, I wear the same suit to work, and I notice everyone else has got a new suit. So I got to buy more. So all of a sudden, I've got 10 suits that cost $200 each. An economist would say, demand is filled, 10 suits. Wrong. One day, the salesman shows me a $400 suit. I put on one $400 suit on Monday, I go to work. How do I feel on Tuesday putting my $200 suit on? Not too good. I just shifted to higher quality. This is why we almost lost the auto industry. The United States made Chevrolets and Buicks and Oldsmobiles and all these names, remember, that our dads bought and they thought we would buy. But what happens is a couple goes out and gets some money, they buy a Chevy. Then they argue over it, so they buy 2 Chevys. Now they got a 2-car garage and 2 Chevys. They make some more money. Do they buy a 3rd Chevy? No, they buy a BMW. And when they buy the BMW, they want a 2nd BMW. Then they want to go up to Mercedes. Do you see how the shift never stops? And when you're launching a product, you have to start with the highest quality product at that time. And then you've got to sit here. And one of the reasons I got to tell you I had to come in here today is when Jeff Olson called, because he understands that the end of the line is always the highest quality product. And you've got to start with the best from the very beginning. And then you've got to say, you know, just because it was the best 3 years ago doesn't make it the best today. It's time to retool, time to keep investing, and time to keep the business going. So you have a very good captain at the head of this ship who talked me into coming here today. Thank you. And he truly understands that you've got to start with the highest quality and ride that shift between quantity and quality. And understand that when you introduce your product to people, sometimes they're going to go, this is great, and then they're going to run out and try a cheap product that may or may not do the same thing. And you do the same thing too. When I tell you, try this new Thai food, it's good. You don't want to go spend $100 on a meal. But if you go restaurant to restaurant to restaurant, at some point you want this Asian fusion $100 meal going, wow. But it took you a while to come up the curve. And when you go pitch someone on a new business, a new opportunity, a lot of times they go, no, not ready for me. And a lot of times you go, yes, this works perfect. And why? Because God bless them, some other entrepreneur or person in your industry got there first. And they pitched really hard and they didn't succeed. And it was just ready for you. And sometimes when you get there and you tell somebody just the way your family been, your parents have been, your father's skin has always looked like this, doesn't mean you have to look like this. And you may not get through, but someone else will in the next message. Somebody with your company, somebody with another company. But we're all in this together because we're carrying a message that you can improve, you can change, you can make money, you can take care of your family, you can control your own destiny. And it's not important who closes the sale. It's important that collectively we close the sale and bring this message of hope, which becomes a totally self-fulfilling prophecy. So again, I applaud the business you're in. And there's so many things I like more even about your particular business. One is it focuses on the home-based entrepreneur, not the ego of what the sales are and how fast you can go broke, because what really matters in business is not the business, it's the profit. It's the dollars and the free time you get to spend with your family. I can tell you every single successful businessman, many times in their life, and most of them today unfortunately get it early, realize this isn't a business, this is a business to give me money and free time that I can schedule my time so I can spend time doing the things with the people I love. And what I love about a home-based business is it comes with that free time day one. Now let me be honest here, it's going to take a lot of time to build a business. It costs more time to work for yourself than working for a salary. So don't believe you're going to get all these free hours. What you will get is you get to control the hours. I get to say to my children, not now, when the kids are in bed, I do my business calls after 9 o'clock, but I get to tuck everyone in bed at night and talk to them. Where I couldn't do that when my boss on a different time zone would call me at 10 o'clock his time, but it's 8 o'clock my time. The time shift ability is precious. And the ability to control your time really gives the opportunity, particularly with the family, to control your life. And that's one of the best things I say with a home-based entrepreneur opportunity, in that it comes with many of the end-use rewards you'd want if it was already financially successful. Within also home-based business, you've chosen an opportunity and a model that Jeff knows so well, which is relationship marketing. And a couple of very key points that I'm not going to have time to go in here, but I got to tell you that I've pulled together, I have 9 books and a lot of materials. They pulled together a bunch of products. This is a 6 CD set with a 110-page workbook that detail for detail goes through how I manage my life and my home and my business over the last 30 years of starting companies, taking several public, and how I manage the time and integrate it with my family. And I've gotten just some terrific feedback about this, particularly from my students who technically, if you look at it, pay about $5,200 tuition to NYU or Penn to go take one of my courses. And I've had people say they learn more seriously from my 7 hours of CDs and all these detailed war stories that really made an impact on them than they did from the other products. I've also got here The Next Millionaires for You, which is a very detailed book of how we're adding 1 million millionaires to our economy every year, where they're coming from, and most of the stuff in much more detail than I'm covering here now. But when I come back to network marketing, the first thing I love about network marketing, and people say, well, I get criticized at times as an economist because people don't understand what we do in network marketing. And these days I speak before literally 100,000 person audiences from Jakarta to Beijing. I was in Brazil and India the last 2 weeks. And a number of these speeches are in network marketing. What I love so much is the message. Because I have people coming up to me like you who say, I heard you, Paul, and I started my business and I'm successful. And for every one of you, I think I hear from 1 or 2 who say, I heard you and you were great, and what you do with it? Oh, I didn't go into the business with that company, but you gave me the inspiration to realize when I saw these other people doing it that I could do anything, and I took over my cousin's business, or I took over a customer who was not treating me well, or I did something and built my own business. And what I find is the message of entrepreneurism and hope permeates the organization. So even when you go out and show the business opportunity to someone, you're one person of a step of 5, 10, 20, 30 visits that shows them they can take control of their business. We hope they go into your business, that's what keeps your model working, but what works so well is they understand how to go into almost any business. The personal growth and training that comes through network marketing, relationship marketing, is so amazing to me, because when I first started at Citibank, they would pull me out of work every 3 months and send me away to camp to learn how to deal with my personality flaws in a positive way and train me to be a better manager. And then I found out when I left Citibank that not everybody gets this. Nobody gets this. And of course, relationship marketing makes people better people because it teaches them better how to serve other people. The second area I like relationship marketing is why it works, which is it's an active versus a passive medium. Every time we go more tech, every time there's a new PDA, that's more disconnected we get from an ad message. And the only thing that works that becomes more valuable is person to person. And that is the essence of your business. You're learning person to person marketing. I believe that I'm here because you have a solid business opportunity with Jeff that I believe is going to do amazing things. On the other end, it's the skills you take with you to any other business. The third is the truth about making money, which is residual income. Anyone tells you you're going to get rich working for them, they're lying. It can't happen. The only way you do the math, you're going to accumulate $1 million or more is making money today on something you did yesterday. That's called residual income. It's the foundation of your compensation plan, and it just doesn't exist. The world is filled with penniless lawyers who never made less than $200,000 a year. But of course, after taxes, they're not making any money for the hours they put in the year before. What I like so much about your business is it takes relationship marketing or Facebook marketing and makes it scalable. It's a scalable business model that works, and I'm smiling as Facebook's having its troubles right now, which I believe they'll solve, but they're trying to figure out what the business model is, and I say, what are you doing Thursday? Come over down here. I'll show you a business model. It's pretty exciting between person to person through relationships. Wow, I'm just getting warmed up, and I see this thing saying to me that I'm running out of minutes, and there's really so much more. And I hope this is not the first time, I believe of many, if it's you're going to be with Jeff Olson, that I'll be meeting you and speaking with you. When I look at this, I look at what you have in front of you. And I look at it particularly at a time where people think yelling at the other guy is the answer to our presidential election, or there's something wrong with the U.S. economy. There's nothing wrong with the U.S. economy. Just take out a calculator and look at the gross domestic product. It goes up every single quarter. There were 1 or 2 dips. It went down or it didn't grow as fast, and it made up more than that for the next quarter. But what's scary is that less and less people are sharing in it. And we're reaching a level where right now, by my calculation, 55% of the adults ready, willing, and able to work have a job. That's not necessarily bad. A lot of them are not necessarily need to work because they live with a spouse or some situation they don't need to. I believe that 55 is going down to 40 and 30%. But again, I don't think it's so terrible because we once lived in a world where 100% of the people, including children, had to work. And we have this amazing world that you don't have to. For some of us, and all of us who are here today, you need to make a difference for your own life. Let's face it. Regardless of the income, you need to have some self-worth. You need to be the person who trains other people. You need to be the person who shows something to someone and has their gratitude. That's why you're here. You're here to learn how to do that. And that's why I applaud you, because this is what we call training the trainers. It's very, very exciting. And it's very exciting for me to look out and hope I've touched you, or in some of the materials available today will touch you more, and to think that if I get through to one of you, I'm going to get to at least 100 people this year. And those 100 people are going to get through to at least 1,000 people, and that's if you just average. So you have to understand from my standpoint, or anybody with a message or something, or as you develop your own message, there isn't anything more exciting than getting to train the trainers, than getting to have a message you believe in, to love this country more than anything in the world, and to see these great opportunities, and to say, this is how we're going to change the world. This is our revolution. This is what we're here to do and to fix. And as you go forth with a message on your product, on your business, but you really go forth with a message that you can control your own destiny, that you take full responsibility for what happens to you. It's not someone doing this to you, it's not the environment, it's not the government, it's not the economy, it's you making the right decisions, and the numbers just bear that out. You go forward with a message that you can take care of your own family, that you can feel really good when you look at the people you love who may not be willing to come to a meeting like this, who may not be willing to go start their own business, or may not want to, but they can get taken care of economically and loved just as much by you. It's another message that government's not the answer. It's not who you elect and what they're going to give you. I would argue it's who you elect and how they're going to leave you alone to build this great business. And more than ever before, and I mean this so much because I feel myself as a world citizen spending so much time, and of course my family background is from, I guess, both continents outside the US, different directions. And it's really what the U.S. is all about. We're here as a shining beacon to the world. And when you build your business, and you build a business within the U.S., and it spreads, and if you could see the spread of your business, and many of you will be, if you're not already, overseas very quickly as a company like this grows, and you see the message of hope and opportunity we have in India, and we have in Brazil, and we as anyone in a relationship marketing business, because they don't have to wait for anything. They're able to get started so quickly. And the U.S. message of hope has been a beacon of the world for over 200 years. We live in a time that some people, very short term, I believe, have forgotten that. And we're taking our rightful place now in an amazing, amazing way. And smack in the middle of it and right behind all of it is the U.S. economy. And right behind the U.S. economy is everyone in this room who says, I am going to take care of my life, my family, my people, my God. Thank you very much. I love you all. I wish you great success.